Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, what would happen if your mobile phone killed you?
We are tonight's entertainment.
I would rather watch Beautician and the Beast.
People don't forget.
And here we go.
Made for movies.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Made for Movies podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Wolf. With me, as always, my co-host, Eric Russo. How are you today, my good sir?
I'm fantastic. This is going to be a fun ride, I think.
This is an episode I've been looking forward to for a very long time, many years, in fact, as we've been doing this. And
at least
just
6 days for me.
At least to see where we stack up on our old comedy movies, top 10 list of all time, the most watchable, the most quotable, everything in between, where they're streaming now. We're going to get into all that. So I just want to start off with some honorable mentions. I feel like this category is pretty deep as far as, you know, the best movies, the funniest movies, what have you.
What was important to you when making this list?
I think the top two things are, do I still laugh at some of the jokes, and how often can I watch it again and not get sick of it? Those were really the top two. And then, of course, like, is it a good movie in general, good story? Some of which does lead itself to a little bit of the story of how I saw the movie for the first time, especially with my number one, but we won't spoil that. But yeah, how about you? How'd you come about your list?
Pretty similar to you. One of the reasons I was a little skeptical to do a top 10 comedy list is just because it's so subjective to not only the person, but the time. Like, my list probably changes every 5 or 10 years because some things I used to think were funny are no longer funny, and vice versa. So it'll be really fun to do. But yeah, for me, it was mostly based off what you're saying. Rewatchability, how funny is it, how original is it, and just how good of a movie is it in general. So those were the 4 categories that I personally focused on.
Sure.
And some of the results kind of surprised me. And honorable mention wise, yeah, we'll get into yours first. But yeah, I had a ton of honorable mentions just because there were so many movies that I was like dying to stick in my 9 or 10 spot, but I just couldn't justify it. So
the way I see most of my honorable mentions is that it goes my 1 through 10, and then it's like 11, 11, 11, 11, like repeating forever. Like, they're all almost 10, number 10, almost all number 9. So they could have made it in at any given day. So just to kick off my honorable mentions, didn't quite make the top 10. I had Step Brothers. I had Clerks, both 1 and 2. Ted by Seth MacFarlane. Get 'Em to the Greek. Spaceballs. I'm a big Mel Brooks guy. That'll come to light in my list. I Love You, Man. Some stuff like Super Troopers. Both Ace Ventura movies, those both made honorable mention, and then Tommy Boy. So
that's a great, I mean,
those aren't in my top 10
list.
Yeah, exactly. Like those may be somebody's top 10. But yeah, when we get into the actual list, I'll try to explain kind of what kicked them out. But yeah, what do you got honorable mention wise?
Yeah, so funny enough, even the ones you were just saying, like, didn't make my honorable mentions, but I was like, damn, I almost like, not that I forgot about it because I knew they weren't in my top 10, but definitely worthy of honorable mentions. Like, I forgot about Clerks and I Love You, Man. Definitely would be on my honorable mentions, but my list, a few that I just couldn't justify as comedies, although I guess they are technically comedies. So first being 500 Days of Summer.
Okay.
I think one of the best romantic comedies of all time. Just a fantastic movie. Wolf of Wall Street was another one we talked about, but I decided it wasn't quite a comedy. Shaun of the Dead, Beetlejuice, another one. Beetlejuice was the closest. It was on the list, and it got bumped at the last minute, but that was my top tier number 11 choice. 21 Jump Street, Palm Springs, recent movie that came out. I just haven't seen it enough to put it in the top 10, but ask me in 5 years, this movie could definitely be on my list.
For sure.
Yeah, so moving from there, a couple final ones that, oh, fuck. Yeah, so pretty funny segue. My house almost just burned down because I have no ventilation. And the sound that goes off, that alarm sound, will segue into my next honorable mention, Dumb and Dumber.
Oh,
do you know what
good
the
honorable
most
mention there.
Annoying sound in the world is. Yeah, right. From there, last couple, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Really, really great movie. Just couldn't justify it. Don't watch it enough to really put it in my top 10. Last two are Hangover and Anchorman. So
these are all like so deadly. Like
Yeah.
those were definitely on the list I looked to research off of, but I was like, they all could be though.
Yeah.
They all could be in
On
the
it.
top 20 at the very least. So
I'm sure
Good-
that
good
was
call-outs.
someone else's top 10 list there. I know everyone loves Hangover, so.
yeah, absolutely. That brings us into my official top 10 comedies of all time list. Starting with number 10, might be a little obscure for the average viewer, but number 10 for me is Team America World Police. And I give this movie a 9 out of 10 all day long for rewatchability and hilarity. This comes from the creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone. They are absolutely hilarious. I am a huge South Park fan. Was very much intrigued that they were doing a puppeted movie instead of using cardboard as their cutouts for their animation. They actually just did full string puppets and left the strings in there. I love this movie for its dialogue. It's still relevant today. Like what happens when a rogue kind of vigilante police force goes and tries to stop terrorism. Lots of things go wrong, and in a very funny way in this movie. Favorite scene would probably have to be any song in the movie. They're all hilarious to me. But anyway, any of the songs are good, and the scenes around it are hilarious. Not sure what you think of this movie. I don't know how big of a South Park fan you are, but I love it. That's how it makes its way into my top 10.
Yeah, it's not on my list or in my honorable mentions. I've seen it one time. I think it's funny. It's just not a movie that I personally connect with, but I like it as an obscure pick for sure. Not even one that crossed my mind. I don't even think I saw it on the list. I did also, because of last time with Into the Spider-Verse, I decided to eliminate cartoons from my list. So
Okay.
the reason being, like, Toy Story is probably the greatest comedy of all time as far as like a movie made. Oh my gosh! It's a 10 out of 10.
I'm about to faint.
Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. It's a masterpiece. All the Toy Stories are. So if you bring Pixar into it, like as film quality, that's why I left off cartoons, because they're typically just better made movies.
Does this one count, being that it's puppets instead of animation?
I don't know. That's on you. I just say for me personally, I just didn't expect you to have any, so I went straight live action for my list. That's what
I gotcha. Well, that's my only non-live action movie on my list, so I think it skates by because it is, voiced by those guys, but it's more than an animated movie, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely more puppeteer.
Yeah,
for sure. So moving on to my number 10 is going to be a movie that I actually hated when I saw it in theaters. So,
interesting.
Kind of the opposite experience you had, but my number 10 is Pineapple Express.
Okay.
It's directed by David Gordon Green, written by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, starring Seth Rogen, James Franco, Gary Cole, amongst many others. Have a lot of love for this movie. It's probably the movie I watch the most now.
Okay.
It was on Netflix for so long. I was always there. I would just always click it. I was watching it like once a month for way too long. But to me, it's one of the most quotable movies of all time. James Franco specifically, and Danny McBride to some extent. Just their banter, everything going on between them. I don't really like stoner comedies, but for some reason, this movie has a lot of heart, and I think that it gets funnier every time I watch it. A standout moment or scene or line in the movie for me will always be when James Franco is talking about civil engineers and how the guy who invented the cross joint is his second favorite civil engineer behind the guy who what's it called, made the Madison Square Garden naturally. So
it's rumored that M.M. O'Shaughnessy designed the first one, the guy who designed the Golden Gate Bridge. My second favorite civil engineer behind Hans Carl Bandel, Madison Square Garden.
Fantastic line, great movie. But yeah, that's all I got. That's why it's on my number 10.
Yeah, I think that Pineapple Express for me is on my bottom 10. I've tried. I watched it in theaters, hated it. watched it on Netflix, hated it. I just can't get into it. I don't really know why. I think I was probably thrown off by like how violent it actually is as a comedy. Like, 'cause it's like hyper violent. Like, not just like a little. It's almost like the new Mortal Kombat movie with all the gore and blood that's going to be coming out with it. But I do get that it is pretty funny, and Seth Rogen is pretty funny. I think I really just hate James Franco in it.
Really?
But we don't have to go too much farther into Pineapple Express, but that's a shocking top 10.
It's an
for
8
me.
out of 10 for me too. So you'll notice that's
Okay.
that's where the bar starts for these movies.
Sure. Moving right along to my number 9, 1999, Office Space. Written and directed by Mike Judge. I'm a huge Mike Judge fan. I did watch Beavis and Butthead when I was in the 90s as I was growing up, mostly for the music videos, but stars Ron Livingston, Jennifer Aniston, among many others, other recognizable people that you may not recognize their name. Samir is one of the best characters ever. Milton, played by Stephen Root. He's in like so many different movies. Gary Cole, who plays Bill Lumberg. He's great in Dodgeball, and like basically as that guy with that same, radio quality voice who can just knock
Also
any line
in
out of the
Pineapple
park.
Express.
So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
He's in Pineapple Express as the villain. Yes, indeed. But I love this movie because I've worked in an office when I saw this the first time, and I was like, wow, they really kind of captured what it's like to work at a tech company, because I worked for a fairly large tech company as an intern in high school. The characters in it are great. The quandary they get themselves into is basically like Superman 3, which is hilarious to me. They even call that out in the movie. Favorite scene would definitely be when he gets hypnotized into being like a very much more laid back guy than he is right now, and the therapist actually dies. It's just like, okay, this is how this is going to get set off. And just him talking to the consultants, like it's John C. McGinley. My favorite line is, "What would you say you do here?" And like the way he says it, it's like anyone with a job, if you can't actually articulate what your job is, like why are you there? That kind of sentiment. So really like it. It's also a 9 out of 10 for me as far as rewatchability and still getting those laughs.
Nice.
So I don't know if Office Space made anywhere near your list.
Did not. Funny movie. I like it. I appreciate it for what it is, but I will probably never watch it again.
Okay.
It's just simple enough. But yeah, moving into my number 9. By the way, so what I wanted to do as well is just let everybody know where you can find these movies. So as far as Pineapple Express goes, Pineapple Express is not free anywhere, but it can be rented on Amazon Prime and any Vudu or any of those other ones. So moving into my number 9 spot is going to be a movie called Bridesmaids. Came out in 2011, directed by Paul Feig. Written by Kristen Wiig, and it stars Kristen Wiig, Rose Byrne, Maya Randolph, a bunch of other people. I love this movie. Another movie that I didn't really like when I saw it in theaters. They have like the unrated version, which is the only version I watch now, which for some reason a lot of these comedies just get funnier when you watch them on home video, because they have these extra unrated versions with an extra 5 or 10 minutes, not even of scenes, but just like of these added lines that really put some of the scenes over the top.
For sure.
I love Rose Byrne. I think she's fantastic in everything she's in, and she plays like the stone cold bitch here. I'm not a really big Kristen Wiig fan, but she's great in this movie. Nothing much too else to add. As far as my favorite scene, probably when they go get the dresses and they all get the food poisoning is
it's a tie between that and the airplane.
The airplane.
Question.
The airplane is great. Was it Melissa McCarthy with her real life husband in the movie is just fantastic. But yeah, that's my number 9. I give this movie also an 8 out of 10. Fantastic, and it is free right now on Peacock.
Yeah, I would have Bridesmaids and another movie, Mean Girls, in my honorable mentions list, just because those are 2 that I forgot about. So I'm right there with you. It's a great movie. It's funny. When she takes a Xanax and chugs a glass of scotch and then turns into the funniest thing I've ever seen, basically. Kristen Wiig.
There's a colonial woman on the wing of the plane.
Yes. The lady next to her goes, "I had a dream last night. You were in it." and they never met before. I thought that those little lines.
Yeah,
are
our
very
plane
funny
crashed.
to me.
You were in it.
But yeah, that's a good one. Coming back to my list, first of all, guys, Team America is available on Showtime. Office Space is available on Stars currently, and my number 8 is something we've talked about because we just recently reviewed its sequel, Coming to America. Coming to America is my number 8. I also give it a 9 out of 10. We don't have to go into too much detail on this. I know your thoughts about it. It's not like your favorite. It wouldn't be in your honorable mentions list.
It's not called Coming One America?
Yeah, that's exactly Coming One America. That's what we'll call it. Barbershop scene, without question. The first time they meet is hilarious. Eddie Murphy playing 3 characters. Arsenio playing 2 other characters. The banter is just perfect, and the way that movie is actually, and to your critique of Coming to America too, is that it's actually set in America. So
that's nice.
There's a lot more McDonald's funny references from the 80s in New York City, and they went to Queens because they thought, oh, that's regal. I'm a prince. I'm gonna find my queen in Queens, and Queens is one of the smelliest parts of New York City. So it's pretty funny overall, the setting there. But yeah, like I said, give it a 9 out of 10. Definitely rewatchable and still funny today for me.
Yeah, good movie. Like I said, I like it a lot better. Probably between a 7 and an 8 out of 10 for me. One of Eddie Murphy's better roles for sure, and kind of his whole coming on the scene as the biggest name in Hollywood in the 80s. So definitely a great pick. Moving in, and where's that playing right now? Did you already say that?
That's playing on Prime Video right now.
Oh, nice.
Because it's co-released with with the new movie.
So
yep.
Watch it for free. So moving into my number 8 is one that took the Beetlejuice slot at the last second.
Oh, wow.
This is The End. This is The End, directed by Evan Goldberg and Seth Rogen, written by them as well, starring literally everyone in Hollywood. Franco, Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen. The whole entire crew is there. Danny McBride as well. Craig Robinson's also in it. Amazing. Basically tells the end of apocalypse about just a bunch of actors who are too shitty to go to heaven, so they are stuck in the apocalypse. So I think this movie is infinitely rewatchable. The opening scene at Franco's house, to me, is just incredible. Michael Cera is the standout in the movie.
Without question.
Without question. Yeah, I love this movie. I watch it, 2-3 times a year now. It's in my regular rotation. There's some weird parts for sure, but overall I think it's a very enjoyable movie, and yeah, I think everyone should check it out if you haven't seen it.
Absolutely. It is a good movie. I find it less rewatchable when we know the end, and I'm not a huge Backstreet Boys fan, but it's still got its moments, I guess, as far as those go. And it does star literally everybody, and they're playing themselves, keep in mind. Yeah. So that's actually kind of funny as well, to see how those guys kind of banter back and forth.
And that's available on pretty much every streamer for $2.99. So
gotcha. Cool. Moving along, my number 7 movie. We're going back to the 1970s. So I obviously wasn't born when this was released, but still funny today, kills it. It's Monty Python and the Holy Grail. This is where I start my rankings at about a 9.5 going up.
Wow.
This movie to me is something that will never stop being funny for unlimited reasons. The best scene in the whole movie is when Sir Lancelot goes to rescue the princess in the tower. And the way it starts off is he's running towards the castle gate from a distance, and then the camera goes towards the guards, and then it goes to him again, and he's in the same place 5 times. When I was a kid watching this movie, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then he gets there and he finds out it's not a princess, it's actually a prince. He kills literally everyone at the wedding that they're supposed to have. It's just the biggest blunder of all time, and to put a medieval spin on it, I find it to be hysterical. It's written by Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones, 2 parts of Monty Python, and stars all of those guys. Obviously, another standout scene is the killer rabbit, who you wouldn't expect a little cute bunny rabbit to be this monster that can just kill things at will, but it's another thing that kind of shocks you, and overall is just rewatchable, hilarious to this day.
Awesome. Yeah, great movie. Not on my list again because it's not a movie that I rewatch a lot, but it is a very respected comedy and a classic for sure. But
Absolutely.
moving on to
That's available to stream on Netflix as well. So
nice.
free to stream.
Free to rent, free to stream. Yeah, I guess more free to stream than rent. Although Netflix does cost $12,000 a month now.
It does.
So my number 7, I believe we're on, right? Number
Yes.
7 for me is going to be a 2003 film known as Old School. Old School is directed by one of my least favorite people, Todd Phillips.
Right then and there, we'll just cut the conversation. Okay,
Yeah.
Old School is good. Bye.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No, it stars Luke Wilson, Vince Vaughn, Will Ferrell, Ari Gold from Entourage also makes an appearance, Jeremy Piven. To me, Old School is the reason that Hangover is not in my top 10 for originality. I just think that movie kind of pulls off this one a lot with the three friends hanging out. They're like the new generation of Old School. To me, this is one of the best comedies ever made, man. It tells a great story, very simple. This is probably the funniest Will Ferrell movie I'd ever seen to date. Like, I remember I saw this when I was 13, and everything he does is absolutely hilarious. The re-gifting specifically probably being my favorite thing, when he keeps giving the same gift over and over.
Yay! He's so funny.
But yeah, this movie is it's like an 8.5 out of 10 for me, for sure.
Absolutely in my honorable mentions as well. I adore this movie. It's one of the first DVDs I owned. I've watched it a million times. Still funny. The whole frat thing, the whole university thing. I was just graduating high school when this came out, so I was really looking forward to college if there was anything close to what these guys could throw as a party. Heck of a film. Where's that available?
That is going to be you have to rent it. So $2.99
Gotcha.
on all your typical renter streamers, Vudu, Amazon Prime.
Absolutely. Moving right along into number 6, almost in the top 5. Another 9.5 out of 10 movie for me out of 2005. The 40-Year-Old Version. It's just, to me, Steve Carell's best performance, even though it seemed seemingly one of his earlier movie performances. Versus him being on The Office, obviously, but written and directed by Judd Apatow. I couldn't pick a favorite scene out of it, because so much of the back and forth, especially between like a Paul Rudd and a Seth Rogen, are hilarious. Like when they're playing video games, right then and there, the banter is just top notch. This guy's quest, or his buddy's quest for him to get some, is just hysterical. It is on the longer side of comedies, close to 2 hours, probably 2 hours and 15 minutes on the unrated version. But to me, it's right in typical Apatow fashion. The right cast, the right people in the right roles. Like, to put Jane Lynch as the store manager and like have her be kind of like this mega, like almost like a skank, and like the way she pulls it off is just perfect. So too many one-liners to name. I just love this movie. Definitely 9.5 out of 10.
It is fantastic. One of my favorite comedies for sure, on my honorable mentions list. No question, to me, the best scene in the movie is when he goes to get his chest waxed, and they really do wax his chest for real in real life, and his eyes just look so unconcerned before the first one. He's like not expecting it to hurt, and then oh my God, I would have loved anything to be there to watch him get tortured. But just watching the reactions on like everyone else's face, like they're not even acting at that point. They're just watching him get his ass kicked. So
it's incredible. I want to know every single one-liner that he did while they were doing that weren't put in the film.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Kelly Clarkson. Like that's the famous one.
That's another movie, the unrated version. I highly recommend people watch. There's, 20, 30, 40 additional quotable lines that they add in that miss the theatrical cut. So great pick.
Definitely. That one is also available to rent or own on any platform that you stream from.
Nice. So moving into my number 6 spot is going to be a movie called Wedding Crashers. So hopefully...
There's just so many good comedies out there. Like we have a wealth of these. Unlike superhero movies.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, and funny enough, all these comedies seem to come out like within 5 years of each other in the mid 2000s. From 2004 to 2009, I think my entire list is made of. But yeah, Wedding Crashers, directed by David Dobkin. Never heard of him before. Don't know anything he did. Written by Steve Faber and Bob Fisher. Never heard of them before. No idea what they've ever done. But starring Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn, Rachel McAdams. Bradley Cooper's coming out party for sure. He's fantastic as the villain. This movie has everything. I don't think I've ever laughed harder seeing this in the theater when I was 15 years old.
Yes.
But yeah, man, even so, my one issue with comedies is the majority of comedies have like that 20 minutes at the end of the movie that's like sad and depressing before like the happy ending. Wedding Crashers takes it to a whole nother level, which is like now probably my favorite part, with Owen Wilson just being completely depressed, reading Don't Kill Myself books. It's so well done. I didn't like it when I first saw it, but I've just grown to appreciate the entire movie. And I'd say Christopher Walken's probably my favorite part of the movie. A sailor. But he's fantastic.
His voice doing any dialogue is the best thing ever. Absolutely.
So this movie's a 9 out of 10 for me. So finally into the 9s, my number 6 spot. This movie, I believe, is available to buy or rent on anything. It's also on Sling TV if you have that random subscription, but it's like $3. So definitely watch it if you have not seen it.
Absolutely. I agree. Wedding Crashers is awesome. I saw it summer vacation at the Jersey Shore, of all places, in a theater because we were bored one night. And it was incredible. I laughed so hard. Like, Bradley Cooper's name is Sack, like a sack lunch. Like, what? Why'd they have to do him dirty like that? Could have been Zach, and he would have been just a big of a pain in the butt. But yeah, moving right along. Top 5. We got some big ones here.
Wedding Crashers.
We're gonna eventually
not on
have
your list. I just want to clarify.
Definitely honorable mention.
For
Wedding Crashers.
Okay,
yep.
got it.
Mm-hmm. But number 5 for me. Another film in that realm of 2004 to 2009. 2008's Forgetting Sarah Marshall, directed by Nicholas Stoller, written obviously by the star Jason Segel. Stars Kristen Bell, Paul Rudd, Mila Kunis, Bill Hader. Not much to not like about this movie, with Russell Brand playing Aldous Snow. It's our first introduction to infant sorrow. Just like a number one, like the writing is perfect because that would be a perfect band name is Infant Sorrow. And he holds up a sign that says, "How can you read when you are blind?" Like, okay, yeah, we get kind of what this guy's about, like these big ballad type of rock songs. And he's a little bit of a former party guy, and obviously, it's the story of a breakup between two people that have been close. They're both in the entertainment industry. They go to Hawaii, and the hilarity ensues from there. But my favorite scene would definitely be with Jonah Hill when they're at the luau, and Aldous Snow goes up on stage and does the song "Inside You," which again, just the writing is perfect. And Jonah Hill does his famous line, "This went from 6 to midnight." I think every man in America has used that line about 1,000 times, personally each. So just like the resonating, quotability of this movie puts it in my top 5, and I have it at a 9.5 out of 10. It's actually available to stream right now on Prime Video. So I'll get off my soapbox. I really love this movie. I think there's not much wrong with it.
No, it is fantastic. It is on my list. It is not my number 5, so I will hold off commenting on it until later. Moving to my number 5 will be Step Brothers, one of your honorable mentions. Just rewatched this movie. Another movie that I didn't really totally love the first time I saw it. I think that's like a common theme with Will Ferrell movies. I think he just kind of grows on you. Directed by Adam McKay, who has become one of my favorite just directors in general. He's starting to do more dramas. He's got a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio coming out later this year that's going to be incredible. Written by Will Ferrell as well. But to me, this is the pinnacle of Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly's relationship on screen. They're always good together. I hope maybe someday we'll get like a weird sequel to this movie. I know they've talked about it, but who plays their brother in that movie? I always forget his name.
He's the guy from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, from Parks and Rec. Adam Scott.
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott is so good as the douchebag brother.
Yes, he is.
Man, picking a favorite scene, almost impossible for me in this movie. I would probably say when they get beaten up by the kids on the way home from school. Or the
Dale Doback.
Yeah, or the interviewing scene.
What's the kid's name? I always found that to be pretty funny.
Mr. Gardocki. Steve
Mr. Gardocki. Yeah.
So good. And then, of course, when he buries him, too, at the end is fantastic.
Oh, perfect.
But moving on to your number 4. Oh, and that movie is available to buy and rent everywhere.
Gotcha. My number 4, another from the same old guy. Like, we have a lot of crossover as far as the actors and directors in our lists. The very funny, the universally loved by all, Knocked Up. 2007, Judd Apatow writing and directing, starring Seth Rogen, Paul Rudd, Katherine Heigl, Leslie Mann, Jason Segel, Jonah Hill. Again, these guys are just hilarious whenever they're together. This is when they're younger. Who doesn't like Knocked Up? I mean, it's one of the most quotable movies of all time. The story is something that can happen to anyone at any time as well. And just the way mostly the way they use music in this movie is one of my reasons I love it. So the first song that you hear as the opening credits come on is I Like It Raw by ODB.
Yeah.
It's
so
like,
good.
so you're talking about a movie with pregnancy in it. Like, okay, we're the audience is allowed to kind of come to their own conclusion about that. But overall, just an incredible movie for me. When they're in the waiting room as the baby's born, I think might be some of my favorite banter. They ask if Martin, who's been growing his hair and beard nonstop for the last 9 months, they ask who that guy is, and they think he might be Modest Yahoo. Like, if you can get a Modest Yahoo call out in any movie, right there, it's going to be my top 5. So yeah, I love it. It's available to rent and own on every service, as well as on Sling TV. Another one, big Sling guys over here. So,
Indeed, yeah. So
I have a feeling this movie will be on your list based on your other movies.
Yes, it is definitely on my list. It is not my number 4. I will hold off commenting until it is revealed.
Gotcha.
But my number 4 is your number 5, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, 2008 film. Not going to recap it. I will say that this is one of my favorite movies to watch just in general. I think it's an incredible story. I love the fact that Jason Segel ties in his love for Dracula in real life. He really did write a Dracula musical. It's like a big part of the story. I think it's really, really funny how they incorporate that. But to me, this movie is nothing without Russell Brand. This is his first movie he's in. I remember seeing the trailers, and I don't think I laughed once at his character in the trailers. I thought it looked really stupid. He won me over, became one of my favorite characters ever. I mean, Get 'Em to the Greek, is like a spin-off sequel to this. I also love that movie. But by far, I love the dinner scene, where they all go to dinner. It's in our opening, not my eye, take the shit. But yeah, you can't beat that entire scene. It's perfect to me. And it just kind of embodies what the entire movie is. So awesome.
Why would a mobile phone kill you?
Yeah.
Why would a mobile phone kill anyone? Oh my God, it's just perfect. It's a perfect scene. Perfect. Love that movie.
So it's a 9 out of 10 for me. And moving into your number 3.
Couple from the 70s on my list. This one, Mel Brooks, written and directed by him. It also stars him in some respect. Blazing Saddles. I've liked this movie ever since I saw it the first time. I'm a big social commentary type of guy. Any movie that speaks to that, whether it's a tone of Judas and the Black Messiah or a Blazing Saddles on the far, far, far extreme end, the other way. This movie from the beginning to end is funny, and everything that they do, from every single person in the small town in the West, the Old West, being their last name's Johnson. I just find that to be so funny, and like such a funny note as to like who the settlers were. Just all these like same named people just kind of taking land as they found it. But obviously starring Cleavon Little as the sheriff, and Gene Wilder as Jim in the movie. And these guys have such an unbelievable banter back and forth. And they do so well on screen together. So I don't know how often you've watched this movie. I've probably seen it about 100 times, just because it's continually funny even today, even though it came out in 1974.
So this will be the first movie I think you've ever seen that I have not seen. So
wow.
I will be adding it to the list. Where can we find this movie?
So Blazing Saddles, available rent or own on any
Everywhere.
platform.
Got it. Cool. Got something to watch tonight. Awesome.
Definitely.
So moving into my number 3 was your number 4. So our lists are kind of like two ships passing in the night right now.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Knocked Up. So for a long time, this was, if you asked me 5 years ago, I would say it was the best comedy of all time. I've always been on that board. I've recently switched, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But yeah, directed by Judd Apatow, written by Judd Apatow. I think he peaked at this movie. I think he's gone downhill slightly. I love funny people, but yeah, he's definitely heading in the wrong direction. And you know, after this movie, I would have told you that he's like the future of everything. It turns out it was, I think, a lot of the actors that he had to work with. But I love that all the actors, you know, go by their actual names except for Seth Rogen's character. I thought that's super clever. Stand out to me, no question, it's Paul Rudd, and just their whole entire trip to Vegas is, to me, it's the most random like side quest in a movie of all time, but it just works perfectly. Paul Rudd talking about the 7 different chairs in the room is the standout for sure.
I love any movie that incorporates Cirque du Soleil, and they do it in this so perfectly. Being on mushrooms, going to see Cirque du Soleil has got to be an experience, to say the least. So, yeah, I totally agree with you there.
Sweet. So moving into
along,
your number
top
two.
Top two. We are here.
There will be blood.
That is actually my 11th favorite comedy.
Yeah.
Just kidding. That's a pretty serious movie. I wouldn't watch it ever again, though. Number 2 for me, Superbad. I mean, Greg Mottola directs. Seth and Rogen and Evan Goldberg write it. Stars Michael Cera, Jonah Hill, Christopher Mintz-Plasse as the incorrigible McLovin. There's harder characters to root for than McLovin. Just in his circumstance, getting a fake ID with one name on it, and that name happens to be Mohammed. I mean, come on. We've all gotten a fake ID in the past. Not often as shabbily done as this one, but there's nothing wrong with this movie. Honestly, Blazing Saddles was a 10 out of 10. Superbad is a 10 out of 10 for me. It's available right now to stream on Netflix, but this one, I mean, just a high school couple guys trying to get laid. Like who else doesn't appreciate that kind of story and all the antics that come along with it? So it's right up there, man.
Absolutely. I will not answer. I think it's safe to say it's not my number 2. So I'll leave the mystery up of where this is on my list, but it is not my number 2. So I'll hold off on any commenting. But my number 2 will probably be the one that's most out of left field based off my list. My list ended up being basically the best comedies of the 2000s, but you know, I'm sorry. that's when they were the best. But no, my number 2 is a 1987 movie, The Princess Bride, directed by Rob Reiner. I think unanimously is seen as one of the greatest, you know, children's movies of all time. This is the movie that I grew up on. It's, you know, the movie I have the most fond memories of, but rewatching it, I think it is absolutely hilarious how many jokes are for adults in it. Starring Carrie Ells, Robin Wright, who's become like a freaking superstar now. But the standout for me is 100% going to be Andre the Giant.
How can you not? Anybody want a peanut?
Yeah, it's the most, no more rhymes, I mean it. But it's one of the most quotable movies of all time. So not much else to say. If you haven't seen it, if you have kids, show them this movie. It's fantastic. You will not regret it.
Yeah, I actually just recently rewatched it for the first time in probably what's been 10 years, and I still like it. It's not in my honorable mentions necessarily because I see it more as like a fantasy. Obviously, it is hilarious, but it's definitely a good movie, and everyone who likes film in any shape or form should watch Princess Bride. Just as like homework almost that for setting up other future comedies in that light. Like it reminds me, not just because Carrie Ewells is in it, but like Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah,
that would be another
similar
one that's Mel Brooks that I would put in probably my honorable mentions. Just because it kind of makes fun of the whole fantasy and things that can go in that type of setting. My name is Indigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Like over and over again. Like that
is
stuff
my
is
favorite
funny to me.
My favorite scene is the fight scene between him, where he's like, "I have some news for you." He's like, "I am not left-handed." He switches hands.
Oh, it's so good.
It's
yeah.
So good. All right, let's move into the number.
Is that available? Is that available to stream anywhere?
I'll get back to you. Go to your number 1, and I will let you know.
Now, my number 1 may be a little contentious with most people because it's probably not the best movie on the list, to be honest, but to me has a funny story. 1994's Dumb and Dumber, the original. Jim Carrey, Jeff Daniels, directed by the Farrelly brothers, written by those two guys as well. It came out in 94. I was 9 years old. my older brother, my older cousin, and my other older brother decided we want to go to the movies, but if we want to bring our kid brother along, we can't tell our parents that we're going to go see Dumb and Dumber. Like, my mom would never let that fly back then when I was just 9 years old. So they said we were going to see, at the time what came out was the live-action Jungle Book movie. So
with the guy from Mortal Kombat.
Exactly. So we made up this elaborate story to tell my parents when we got home. Oh my God, it was so cool. There was a waterfall and there was the sword fight
That's
scene.
just a good
and
movie.
There was,
I don't know.
that's just a good movie. And there was like animals and stuff. And like the story couldn't have been more flimsy. But then we got in and watched Dumb and Dumber. And as a 9-year-old kid, the bathroom scene is literally the funniest thing in the world, where he takes, or Jim Carrey doses him with about 50 times the normal serving of Turbolax, which that's what it's called. And that to me is still hilarious today, Turbolax. And I've loved this movie ever since. I've never been able to not watch it, like at least once or twice a year. And oftentimes more than that, especially when I was, had it on DVD. It would just literally be the first thing I would pop in. Starts off with one of the best lines ever when he pulls up in the limo and the lady's sitting at the corner and gives him direction. He goes, "Lovely accent, New Jersey." I was just like, okay, from here, this is going to be hysterical. A lot of dumb one-liners like that. Our pets' heads are falling off. Like, you couldn't write it up better, in my opinion. Has a lot of the good supporting characters from a lot of the Farrelly Brothers movies, like Something About Mary and Kingpin and things like that. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of good memories for me on this one, and I'd still watch it today and pee my pants laughing. So I know it's not on your list, but that's the very specific reason for mine.
It was at one point in the discussion of being on my list. A lot of great memories with this movie. My fantasy football team name every year is I Got Worms in honor of this movie. So, no, a lot of respect for it. I think that is probably my favorite line when Jeff Daniels says that the bird died. And he's like, how did he die?
Got no food, got no jobs, our pets' heads are falling off.
His head fell off.
It's too perfect. Yeah, his head fell off.
No, there's a lot of good moments. It's funny, when you brought up the bathroom scene, at first I thought you were talking about when Jim Carrey almost gets glory hold, which rewatching the movie, I don't remember seeing that at all. Like, I thought it was like added in, or I was watching like the unrated version. I was like, was this in the movie in 1994? I was like, that's an aggressive scene. Funny, but aggressive.
It's so funny. Like, when I was 9 in the theater, I had no idea what he was trying to do. I thought he was literally there to beat him up. That's all I thought. Like, it just happened to be a coincidence. Little did I know it was about to be a rape.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, guys, that's a little heady for this movie. But
my
Cam Neely playing Seabass is one of the best, and who doesn't say kick his ass, Seabass? Yeah, exactly. Like, that is one of the most quotable lines of all of cinema. So
I think that my favorite obscure hidden line rewatching it is when they're around the fire. And Lloyd has 2 pairs of gloves. He's wearing both pairs of gloves while Harry's hands are freezing cold. And then when he goes to choke him, he's like, "Harry, your hands are so cold.
Your hands are freezing."
Yeah.
Oh, it's so perfect. He's like, "Yeah, my hands are starting to get sweaty. You should wear these extra gloves."
He's like, "Yeah, here, take this pair." So good.
It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Available on Sling TV or rent or own it on any platform. But I'm gonna watch it tonight, just talking about it because I love it so much.
It's like a 7 out of 10 for me, as you predicted. But it's still, I mean, it's hilarious. It's so quotable. It's the IOUs, everything about it. Everyone should watch it. Moving into my number 1 will be a movie you've already mentioned. I think is your number 2 or 3, Superbad. So, to me, this movie probably wouldn't have been in my top 10 after first seeing it. I've always loved it, obviously, but it's definitely moved up the rankings over just an appreciation for, one, that the screenplay was written by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg when they were in high school. They wrote it when they were 14, and they said, 95% of it stayed in the movie. And I just think that shows you that, when you have a passion for something, and they were experts, not 35, 40-year-old adults writing a kid movie. That's why the movie comes off as, a movie that's, to me, timeless, too. It's, a lot of these movies are very subjective to the time they were made. That's why when you rewatch some of them, they just don't hold up. To me, for whatever reason, maybe it's because I was in high school when Superbad came out. That just will forever be high school to me because they nailed it so perfectly. But every single line in the movie has a purpose and is hilarious, and there's not one down part of the movie at all. And I just think it's flawless. It's a 10 out of 10, and it's the number one comedy of all time for me.
Yeah, I agree with they nailed it, because everyone in high school has that story of the night that you talk about for the rest of your life, and that in the next morning is so awkward. Like they even do that part where they meet the girls again in the real world when all this stuff has kind of faded away. It's a beautiful film, and not just funny, but it's a whole good story and everything that goes along with it. So definitely 10 out of 10 for me as well.
Awesome. Well, that wraps it up. We could do a quick little recap if you want to run down your list. Just read them off from 10 to 1 for the audience, and I will do the same. We will call it a day.
Absolutely. So my number 10, Team America World Police, available on Showtime. Number 9, Office Space, available on Stars. Number 8, Coming to America 1 on Prime Video. Number 7, Monty Python, A Holy Grail, available on Netflix. Number 6, 40-Year-Old Virgin, available to rent or own on any platform. Number 5, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, available on Prime Video. Number 4, Knocked Up on Sling. Number 3, Blazing Saddles, available to rent or own. Number 2, Superbad, available on Netflix. And number 1 for me, Dumb and Dumber, 1994, available on Sling TV.
Awesome. My number 10, Pineapple Express. Number 9, Bridesmaids. Number 8, This Is the End. Number 7, Old School. Number 6, Wedding Crashers. Number 5, Step Brothers. Number 4, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Number 3, Knocked Up. And number 2, Princess Bride, which is available on Disney+. Most of the other movies you just have to rent or buy. And then number 1, The GOAT, Superbad.
Totally love it. This was a fun episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out some of these comedies if you haven't seen them already. Any of our honorable mentions are also guaranteed to give you a laugh, I swear. Definitely check us out on all our socials, our website, madeformovies.com. We still got a few t-shirts left.
Our contest, too. We got that contest going on. Oh, right. Contest,
Do you want me to
mate.
just start that over?
No, we're good. Let
All
it
right,
roll,
cool.
baby. No, we have that. We have the contest going on right now, so make sure you enter. All that information is posted on social media. Can win gift cards, free merch, as well as a guest spot on our podcast. So awesome. Let us know if you have any questions. Tag friends in it to get additional entries, and let's get this thing rocking.
Absolutely. And guys, we really hope you like the show, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.